Gran Turismo 7's free PlayStation VR 2 update is now live, a day ahead of the headset's release, but thankfully we've got the headset already for our review which came out last week, so we've been able to put this game to the test. And Polyphony Digital's latest racing game is immediately one of the must-play experiences for early adopters of PSVR 2. This is everything that buyers of the original PSVR hoped and dreamed that VR support in GT Sport would be. It is now the entire game available and playable in virtual reality on console. Whether it's starting from the beginning with a fresh single-player run through the cafe's various menu books, or taking on some races to get your daily miles in, heading online in the sport mode or custom lobbies, you can get the full experience with GT7 and PSVR 2. The only thing that you're missing is split-screen multiplayer, which, considering what is needed to actually push all of this in VR, is not surprising. But as a kind of recompense for that, you do have one new feature, which is the VR Showroom, letting you place a car in half a dozen meticulously crafted environments, from outside the cafe to a trackside garage, or an opulent showroom with windows that go on for days. And within these environments you can then move slowly around the car, inspecting each element close up, or even hopping inside of it and having a look around at the wheel and the dashboard. Get too close to the car though and you'll end up fading through to this minimal wireframe outline, and this is true of the entire game in VR. It's really quite restrained in that regard. But really, it's the driving that is the star of the show in any Gran Turismo, and it is fantastic in VR. After navigating menus that simply project the PS5 TV experience in front of you, you're then transported into the driving seat and the cockpit as soon as you actually start a race. Well, after the little pre-race interlude, that is. If you've spent dozens of hours staring straight ahead in racing games, or even a big multi-screen setup with a PC, or GT5 on PS3, let's not forget, then the shift to VR is remarkable as you're now fully ensconced in the car. You can look into corners and gauge your speed more naturally through them. You can glance into mirrors to peep at the following competitors, as well as continue to use the radar in the floating HUD that is now in the car's centre. And you can really get a sense for the circuits that you're driving on themselves, all of their turns, all of the bumps in various stretches of tarmac, some of the vast elevation changes in some of the world's most iconic tracks that fall deeply down hills before rising up on the other side. And also then there's rally, of course. You can hop into a rally car and onto one of the few dirt tracks in the game and really push this combination to the limit. Every large jump will buzz your head upon impact, you're constantly counter-steering to drift through corners, and you're looking for seconds at a time in the direction that you'd like to go, even if your car is pointing somewhere else. Honestly, it all took a little bit of getting used to, and some of that is going to be that I haven't really spent a huge amount of time with Gran Turismo in the past few months, so many of my breaking points will be completely off in the first place, even without the shift to the cockpit viewpoint away from my favoured Superman mode. However, for everything that this gets perfectly right, there are some fundamental weaknesses as well. Chief among them is the frankly baffling lack of options for VR users. You can't adjust your seat position, you can't adjust your height offset, you cannot even adjust your viewing angle after you've started without pausing the game and then holding Option to trigger the system-wide reset. And while I was not affected by motion sickness in any way, there's no ability to switch from having your viewpoint attached to the horizon to being attached to the car, or being able to add vignettes around the edge, which is something that can aid many of those that are prone to motion sickness. It's just completely bizarre to see this when VR game developers over the past 5 years have spent so much time putting in deep levels of customization for people to find the settings that are just right for them. There is not a one-size-fits-all solution here. I also just wish that you'd actually spend more of your time in the game within the cars themselves. Pre-race, the menus are still in the flat screen view, instead of being in a floating UI where you're actually in the car. And even when the race starts, you then have the external camera cuts before teleporting you into the car the few seconds before the lights go green. If you pit mid-race, well, yes, you've guessed it, it's back to that flat screen view until you cross the speed limiter line on the exit. Oh, and you can't even sit in the cockpit or passenger seats during replays. The VR replay option is the music replay, but you're teleported between different camera points to look around in 3D, which is nice, but it's not what you really want. I seriously hope that Polyphony address all of these complaints and that this isn't just a passing phase which they've churned out as an obligation to their overlords at Sony, because the fundamentals of Gran Turismo 7 in VR still make it practically essential for anyone getting PlayStation VR 2. Driving cars is another one of those practically universal touchstones that so many non-gamers can relate to, and so it makes this game another ideal way to demo VR to someone. But then there's the millions of ardent motorsports fans that will love every moment of what VR can do for racing games. So hopefully Polyphony can expand the options over time and we'll really have something that can truly rival racing games on PC VR as well. That's all for this video, but if you want to see lots more of GT7 in PlayStation VR, then we did almost 2 hours of streaming this game earlier today, so check that out, it's here on our YouTube channel. And if you want more PlayStation VR 2 content, we've got that as well, and you can find that again here on YouTube or over on the6thAxis.com. Before you go though, make sure to like, subscribe, the usual YouTube things, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Goodbye!